democracy. Here's the next part.
Elon Musk, and I know Elon was on your show, and he's here in Austin, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And we could talk about Elon, but he spent $270 million to elect Trump as president. Okay. I think that's absurd that any one person.
What's the most someone donated towards the Harris campaign?
They spent a lot of money on Harris as well.
They spent $1.5 billion just
combined
over the course of a couple of months.
You got it. All right, let me talk about it. So
Yeah,
I'm not here
let's
just to
talk
say
about
it's
that.
a Republican. That's my point here.
Ding, ding, ding. Thank you, Joe Rogan, reminding viewers that it is not the case that one party received tons of money from wealthy people and the other does not. Both parties and their candidates are the recipients of huge sums of money. The reason for that is because the federal government has tremendous power to affect the bottom lines of wealthy people. That is why they spend so much. The feds get to decide whether to break Meta into a bunch of smaller companies. So, of course, Mark Zuckerberg is going to spend his money to stop that. The feds get to decide whether Amazon, the most efficient engine of meeting human need ever devised, gets hampered by costly regulation. You better believe Jeff Bezos is going to get involved in politics. It's true of Apple. It's true of Google. You bet it's true of Elon Musk. It's not just wealthy individuals, activist groups, teachers' unions spend millions of dollars to help elect Democrats because they think Democrats do a better job protecting their jobs, wages, and summer vacations. If you don't like how much money gets spent on politics, then the best solution, in my view, is to make politics matter less. If the government had less power, it wouldn't be worth spending so much to control it. But I want to go back to the first part of Sanders' answer and remind everybody watching, once again, that this is about not just money, but speech. Citizens United was a film company that made a documentary that was critical of then-candidate Hillary Clinton. The Federal Election Commission, the FEC, fined the filmmakers for daring to air TV advertisements for this film within 30 days of a primary election or 60 days from the general, which was contrary to the law. Think about that. The feds were saying they had the power to stop a filmmaker from buying ads to promote their documentary. Now, before the Supreme Court, attorneys for the FEC argued they could do the same to a book. In fact, they could stop you from publishing a book about a candidate who was too close to the election. That's what sold Associate Justice Anthony Kennedy, the court's swing voter at the time, that the law had to be struck down. Don't take my word for it. Here was Kennedy discussing the case years later.
The attorney for the government of the United States argued that if there was an upcoming political campaign, I forget maybe 6 weeks, and a book was being published or a movie being produced and it was critical of a candidate, that you could stop publication. I thought it was unbelievable. This is the First Amendment right.
Now, I appreciate why political figures, members of Congress, and perhaps Bernie Sanders himself wouldn't want you to be able to publish a critical documentary or a film or advertise it on television. But it should be obvious to Rogan and viewers who correctly prize free speech that such a law would have and did violate their First Amendment rights. If we want to limit how much, say, wealthy people have over government policy, well, then we have to set limits on government policy, not on wealthy people, because limits on people apply to my free speech rights too, and your free speech rights as well. That's my rebuttal to Bernie Sanders.
Oh, Robbie. Oh, dear.
Tell me why I'm wrong, Niall.
We'll certainly get off to a disagreement here. Look, I could quibble with some of the characterizations there of the Citizens United, the organization, and Citizens United, the decision. But I think where we differ on this question is actually a larger question, because to me it seems completely obvious that if you permit corporations, which Citizens United did, to spend unlimited amounts of money backing one candidate or hampering another, you are effectively drowning out the free speech of people who do not have those means. And so Sanders was right to acknowledge that this is not a one-party equation. Yes, Elon Musk spent almost $300 million. That's a vast sum of money. But there are people on the Democratic side who spend that amount of money too. Let me, to try to put a point on this argument, use a hypothetical where the money would be spent with a position I agree with. I have argued here in favor of gun control numerous times. Michael Bloomberg basically agrees with me on that. Michael Bloomberg can then spend 10 or 50 or $100 million arguing that position. That has the effect of drowning out lots of individual gun owners, people of more modest means who think otherwise. So it's not just this argument about basic free speech. It's about people's voices being drowned out by the super wealthy.
But I mean, I appreciate you applying the argument to an issue where you would take the
rich guy's
where you
side.
would take the rich guy's position. I guess I philosophically don't agree with that, or I don't think that's something to be addressed. I mean, you and I, as virtues of being television hosts, have a somewhat unequal ability to project our speech versus someone commenting in the YouTube comments on the show. That's just the nature of reality. I mean, the New York Times does endorsements for candidates. They did a quasi-endorsement of Cuomo over Mamdani using their free speech rights to do so. That has tremendous power and influence. It matters more than Joe Smith on the streets endorsement. It's an unequal use of speech, but it is just, I guess it's not to me an improper use of speech. The New York Times Corporation can use its speech to advocate for whatever public policy, to advocate for specific candidates. We all accept, I mean, maybe there's some right-wing people who think that should be not allowed, but generally speaking, we say, well, yeah, that's free speech. I don't see how it's different if the company is Burger King or Bloomberg or whatever, using their speech to advocate for the things they want. They have more influence to do it. Maybe that's lamentable. And then of course, we don't have time to get into this. I also probably disagree with you on how much impact that can actually have in terms of the actual motivating of voters. Obviously, just drawing attention to something helps. Elon Musk, what he probably did best for Trump was turn his social media site, his speech platform, into a much more pro-Trump organization. Was that, even if we had stricter campaign finance laws, how could you have a law that stops him from using the platform he owns? That's a very speech-focused thing, right?
Right, but I mean, that is obviously a speech platform.
I think these are hard to differentiate.
Well, I don't think they're that hard to differentiate, with all due respect, because I think when you're talking about spending money with the express purpose of electing a particular candidate in terms of advertising and so on and so forth,
it's what you're spending
that
on.
is different from actual free speech rights and, as I say, overwhelms the free speech rights of people who do not.
I guess if you were like giving it to somebody to change that, like, I'm giving you $200, now you have to vote for whoever, maybe. But again, the thing you're buying with the money is a billboard or an advertisement, or it's a speech thing.
Right, but the fact that rich people or interests don't carry every election, as Andrew Cuomo just found out, which we'll talk about in a second.
Can't wait to talk about that.
That does not mean that money doesn't give you an advantage. And if that advantage is rendered limitless by a lack of campaign finance restrictions, I think that's a problem. Coming up, President Trump is screaming fake news again, this time over CNN, and the New York Times is reporting on his administration's strikes in Iran. Stay with us.